Better. Letter 40. Thank you for writing so often. By doing so, you give me a glimpse of yourself in the only way you can. I never get a letter from you without instantly feeling we're together. If pictures of absent friends are a source of pleasure to us, refreshing the memory and reliving the sense of void with a solace, however insubstantial and unreal, how much more so are letters which carry marks and signs of the absent friend that are real. For the handwriting of a friend affords us what is so delightful about seeing him again, the sense of recognition. You say in your letter that you went and heard the philosopher Serapo, yeah, when his ship put in where you are. His words, you say, tend to be tumbled out at a tremendous pace, pounded and driven along rather than poured out, for they come in a volume no one voice could cope with. I do not approve of this in a philosopher whose delivery, like his life, should be well ordered. Nothing can be well regulated if it is done in a breakneck hurry. That is why in Homer, the impetuous type of eloquence which he compares to snow that keeps on coming down without a break is given to the orator, while from the old man there comes a gentle eloquence that flowed sweeter than honey. You should take the view then that this copious and impetuous energy in a speaker is better suited to a hawker than to someone who deals with a subject of serious importance and is also a teacher. Yet I am just as much against his words coming in a trickle as in a stream. He should not keep people's ears on the stretch any more than he should swamp them. For the other extreme of thinness and poverty means less attentiveness on the part of the listener as he becomes tired of this slowness with all its interruptions. Nonetheless, what is waited for does sink in more readily than what goes flying past. One speaks in any event of instruction as being handed on to those being taught, and something that escapes them is hardly being handed on. Language, moreover, which devotes its attention to truth, ought to be plain and unadorned. This popular style has nothing to do with truth. Its object is to sway a mass audience, to carry away unpracticed ears by the force of its onslaught. It never submits itself to detailed discussion, is just wafted away. Besides, how can a thing possibly govern others when it cannot when it cannot be governed itself? And apart from all this, surely language which is directed to the healing of men's minds needs to penetrate into one. Medicines do no good unless they stop some length of time in one. There is, moreover, a great deal of futility and emptiness about this style of speaking, which has more noise about it than effectiveness. There are my terrors. Wait. There are my terrors to be quieted, incitements to be quelled, illusions to be dispelled, extravagance to be checked, greed to be reprimanded. Which of these things can be done in a hurry? What doctor can heal patients merely in passing? One might add, too, that there is not even any pleasure to be found in such a noisy, promiscuous torrent of words, just as with a lot of things that one would never believe possible, one finds it quite enough to have seen them once proved possible. So, with these performers with words, to have heard them once is more than enough. What is there in them, after all, that anyone could want to learn or imitate? What view is one likely to take of the state of a person's mind when his speech is wild and incoherent and knows no restraint? This rapidity of utterance recalls a person running down a slope and unable to stop where he meant to, being carried on instead a lot farther than he intended, at the mercy of his body's momentum. It is out of control and unbecoming to philosophy, which should be placing her words, not throwing them around and moving forward step by step. But surely she can move on to a higher plane now and then as well. Certainly it must be without prejudice to her dignity of character, and this vehement, excessive energy strips her of that. Power she should have, great power, but it should be controlled. She should be a never failing stream, not a spate. Even in an advocate, I should be loath to allow such uncontrollable speed in delivery, all in an unruly rush. How could a judge who is not uncommonly too inexperienced and unqualified, be expected to keep up with it. Even on occasions when an advocate is carried away by an ungovernable passion or a desire to display his powers, he should not increase his pace and pile on the words beyond the capacity of the ear. You will be doing the right thing, therefore, if you do not go to listen to people who are more concerned about the quantity than the quality of what they say, and choose yourself, if you have to speak in the manner of Publius Vinicius. When Asellius was asked how I can't say that word, Vinicius spoke, he described it as being at a slow pace. Germinius Varius, in fact, remarked, "How you can call the man eloquent, I simply don't know. He can't string three words together. Is there any reason why, of the two, you should not choose Vinicius's style? You can expect to be interrupted by persons with as little taste as the one who, when Vinicius was jerking the words out one by one as if he were dictating rather than speaking, exclaimed, 'I call on the speaker to speak.' The pace of Quintus Hatrius, a celebrated speaker of his day, is something I should have a sensible man keep well clear of. With him there was never a hesitation or a pause, only one start and only one stop. But I also think that certain styles are suitable in a greater or lesser degree to different nationalities, and a Greek one will tolerate this lack of discipline while we have acquired the habit of punctuating what we say in writings as well as speech. Our own Cicero, too, from whom Roman oratory really sprang, was a steady goer. Roman discourse is more given to self-examination, appraising itself, and inviting appraisal. Fabinius, who added outstanding oratory to those more important distinctions of his way of life, and his learning, would discuss a subject with dispatch rather than with haste. You might describe his oratory as being not rapid but fluent. This I am ready to see in a philosopher, but I do not insist on it. His delivery is not to be halting, but I should rather have the words issued forth than flowing forth. And a further reason I have for warning you against the disease is that the fact that you can only acquire it successfully if you cease to feel any sense of shame. You really need to give the skin of your face a good rub and then not listen to yourself. For that unguarded pace will give rise to a lot of expressions of which you would otherwise be critical. You cannot, I repeat, successfully acquire it and preserve your modesty at the same time. One needs, moreover, constant daily practice for it. It requires a switch of attention, too, from subject matter to words, and even if it does transpire that the words come readily to the tongue and are capable of reeling off it without any effort on your part, they will still need to be regulated. A way of speaking which is restrained, not bold, suits a wise man in the same way as an unassuming sort of walk does. The upshot, then, of what I have to say is this. I am telling you to be a slow speaking person. All right. Knock that son of a bitch out.